Okay, so this is take 3 of the live we're meant to do today in the Holistic Health, Midlife Health group, and the interview with Michelle Smith. And today we're talking about the hidden signs of stress and how to balance your nervous system. And I certainly need that after having all these technical issues today. But that's okay. We will just move ahead with the interview anyway. So thanks, ladies, for joining the replay, because this will be a replay. This is a recording. And I have Michelle Smith with me, and she's a certified holistic burnout prevention coach and an NLP practitioner and a mind body practitioner as well. And today she's going to be talking about the hidden signs of stress and how to balance your nervous system. And she's got a lovely offer to share with you as well. And we'd like to just have a chat about how this is affecting everybody in midlife and what we need to look for and what we can do. So thanks for joining, Michelle. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Kate. Great to be here. We've got it working now, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, technology is just strange sometimes, and when you really want it to work and it doesn't, and when you've got all the time in the world, it's fine. That's the thing. So when we've got time frames, so that's okay. So would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, rightio. So I'm Michelle, and I'm a former second career primary school teacher. And I was doing a lot of other things before that in local government and cashiering, all sorts of things. I've had lots of life experience. So I burnt out severely as a second career teacher after 8 years in the classroom. And so, yeah, basically had to pivot and work out, why I went through what I did and put all the pieces back together again, because I basically hit rock bottom. But it's actually been the driving force for me to retrain, and, really look at how I can support other women so that they don't have to go through what I went through. So I come from, understanding it at a personal level, the impacts of, chronic high stress, and all the other things that contribute. So yeah, so it's my mission to help women, find their energy again and to really take control of their lives. And yeah, and love their life, create a life that they do love.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's great when it's a personal experience too, isn't it? Because you can really resonate with what women are suffering through now. So you said that was about 8 years ago.
About
Okay.
6.
Oh, sorry, 6 years ago. Why did I think 8? Anyway, so 6 years ago. Sorry. Okay, so what signs did you miss for yourself that you see in women now that you work with?
Well, it's really interesting because burnout really isn't a diagnosable condition. And
Mm,
so there's lots of different types of signs that affect us, mind, body, emotions, behaviors. So it can be different for a lot of people. But for me personally, it was the chronic stress, and, this chronic stress that can actually happen for a lot of years. We're finding ourselves highly stressed every day, particularly, women of our age. We're working, we've got careers, we've got families, we've got probably aging parents that we're supporting, maybe even grandparents. So a lot on our plate. And so a lot of the signs that you'll find can relate directly to, things like mentally. And this is interesting because brain fog is one of those things that can be contributed to lots of different health things. But brain fog is one of the mental signs, and cynicism, feeling really negative
mm,
about life. Maybe life feels really heavy and hopeless. And I remember feeling like that, wanting to quit, not wanting to sort of keep doing what you're doing. So yeah, mental signs, things like physical signs, just extreme exhaustion, fatigue, even after you've had a holiday, you've had a rest, even after sleep, just feel exhausted. even things like I was getting headaches all the time and just getting sick really regularly. And yeah, not being able to sleep. Like sleep was a really big one for me back then, highly stressed, that whole wired and tired. Couldn't shut down the thinking, wanting to sleep, needing sleep, feeling really exhausted and tired, but just not being able to. And just feel a sense of this whole wired feeling in your body.
Mm.
Um, and the emotional signs for me was, it was a lot of irritability, snapping at my family, with outbursts and feeling emotional all the time, like even teary. And that wasn't me, I'm fairly, even keel, calm sort of person. And, those sorts of signs were really showing up for me, this whole emotional component was quite big for me, just on the edge of tears pretty regularly. But then it would swing to just not really caring about things, a loss of joy too in my life. And a loss of motivation too, just feeling really detached and just wanting to withdraw away from everyone, didn't sort of want to spend time with people. Um, and the other thing, there can be behavioral signs as well with all of this, it can be all sort of tied together. And for me, that whole withdrawal and isolation, but also I just wasn't coping, performing very well, with life and all the stuff that, was being thrown at me. So it's like a complicated sort of, set of symptoms and signs that can really show up that, your nervous, more particularly my nervous system was really dysregulated from that chronic stress, the years and years of being highly stressed.
That went on for a long time. So what did wired, what you mentioned you felt wired. What really does that mean for the women that don't really know what wired means? How did that feel in your body?
Well, like I said, just not being able to sleep, not being able to
Oh,
relax
relax. Relax.
and
Yeah.
wind down.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
And I
So
see that a lot for women,
mm,
particularly like I really do like to have, nice baths and calm down and do breath work because I teach that sort of thing. And it is really learning how to relax because when you're so highly stressed and wired up for so long, you're doing that daily, you
mm,
can get stuck there too. And your brain can get actually wired like that too. So it does take a bit to learn how to rewire your brain, learn how to bring your nervous system back from that sympathetic nervous system, which we call fight and flight, and bringing it back to parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest, which is what we need, to be able to heal, to be able to rest for digestion and to sleep well. And that's what's happening. I was stuck for so many years in that sympathetic, and they call it a sympathetic dominance.
mm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, seeing it a lot for
Yeah.
women these days.
Yeah, and you've certainly been through a lot with that. I would say I've been had mild symptoms on and off over my life as well, and maybe
Mm,
even more in my 20s, way before I was a naturopath. I think I sort of overlooked because I didn't understand it back then. That was a long time ago now, and we
mm,
didn't really have the education. And like we nowadays, we actually have got so much information out there that we can um, find
mm.
to help us,
Very
can't we?
much.
Like, whereas, God, 30
Yeah,
years ago,
very much
what
so.
did we know? Not a lot. Are there any other subtle signs that women overlook?
Oh,
Because
so many. So
okay,
many.
yeah,
Even, when the interesting thing about stress is, it is a feeling. So we can feel stressed,
yeah,
but we don't necessarily have to feel stressed. Some women know when they're stressed and some women don't. So, you might just have signs that you're just feeling overwhelmed all the time. You're worrying, life is, demanding
mm,
and there's a lot on our plates, and that's what stress is actually caused from, and it's really having an understanding of our modern stress, and what's causing, the stress on our systems. So, anxiety, you might say, oh, I'm just feeling really anxious today, or I'm feeling really quite angry, and I said before, there's a lot of emotional signs, and it can be just all a play on our emotions, angry and frustrated and resentful and, stuff that's going on in our life. Just worry can actually trigger the stress response in our body. But it's coming from all, the demands on our time. I said, the constant worry, it might be paying bills and financial stress. It might just be being in traffic, and having that pressure on you, running late, I've got to get to that can actually trigger the stress response, a bit like what we've been through this morning, this afternoon earlier, when we're under time commitments, wanting to do our live together, and then technology wasn't playing ball. Those types of things, those pressures, those time demands and things can actually cause a lot of stress in our body too. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's the emotional triggers that we have now that creates that are the stresses. We have physical stresses as well, and you probably talk about those with the ladies in your group. It can be just things like, not enough movement, or, excessive exercise, pushing the body too much. It might be lack of sleep. But then we have those chemical stresses as well. So we have, the emotional stresses, the physical stresses, the chemical stresses, everything in our modern life is actually creating a lot of stress in our body. And it can be showing up for different, in different ways. And that's why I talk about holistic. So, physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, it can affect us in lots and lots of ways.
Loads of ways. You mentioned depression before, not depression, sorry, I was going to mention depression. You mentioned some symptoms before that, I had depression in my head, thinking that to some women may seem like a typical depression. I'm going to do that because, people get diagnosed with depression, but then, if it's a medical professional that does this and says, oh, you've got depression, it could be just a sign of burnout, couldn't it? Like for some women, when they think, well, why am I depressed? Especially if they're No, it's all right, especially if they haven't. I'll just finish, then you can go on. But just especially I have women that my clients say that to me. They say, well, I've got no reason to be depressed. I've got a lovely family, husband. I don't have any money worries. Everything's fine, but I feel really depressed. And then they can think, well, it might be hormonal, but the doctor just says it's depression. But this could be partly to do with what you're talking about, do you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah, so much so, Kate. That's really interesting you say that, because that's why, we do have, it really does need to have an awareness of what's going on for us. It might just be the thoughts that are going on in our mind and how we actually cope with what's going on in our life. And then the longer, these stresses are left supported, or, we're not doing things to help our body wind down, it can develop, and that's what happened to me. I'd never been diagnosed with anxiety. I'd never had depression before, but the longer I was in chronic stress, from the demands from my job, from, unmanaged stress, the difficult emotions, the high workload, it's what's going on in here. And then it can actually develop further into things like I said, anxiety, depression. And these are all diagnosed things. It could be chronic pain that you're feeling. It could turn into heart disease, stroke. And the 6 major chronic health issues in our world are stress related. So it's really interesting.
That's huge, isn't it? If they're all stress related. And because everybody I think most people are just feeling like it's normal to be busy and stressed. Do you feel like it's sort of been normalized? That's how it
It
sort of
has.
comes across to me. Like, well,
It
there's
has.
something wrong with if you're not busy, if you're not using 10 devices at once and multitasking and running around and running 3 businesses and doing this and that. And if this normalization is a bit of a worry too, because this is why people are leading to burnout. Do you think that's a part of it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just
It
haven't really
seems
thought
to
of
be
it.
a
Yeah.
societal thing,
Yeah.
that unless you're busy, that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And women and I say this, they start to wear busyness as a badge of honor. You'll say to them, "Oh, how
Yes.
are you?" "Oh, I'm so busy." And then they've got to tell you all these different things that they're doing. Well,
Yeah.
that busyness, like I said earlier, with on the go all the time, do, that the time pressures, the thoughts associated with, I've got so much on my to-do list and I can't get it all done. That's actually what's creating the stress, and society's feeding into that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not helping. It's not
It's
helping
not
for us.
good, is it? Not at all. So what would you suggest that women can do to help balance or reduce stress levels and help balance the nervous system naturally? How do you help people with that? Like, give us some clues or tips that you can share with the audience to say, okay, this is what you could start with doing, and this is, yeah.
Sure.
Mm,
Well, it starts, Kate, with a lot of awareness,
yeah.
getting in touch with what your brain and your body is telling you.
Mm,
Our brain, our mind is very clever. So is our body, as you know.
yeah.
It's giving us signals all the time. And this is what happened to me. And I wasn't listening to them for so
Yeah.
many years. Pushing down, pushing away the emotion, pushing away, the indications that maybe there's some niggly health issues, or, the brain saying, "Oh, I can't keep doing what I'm doing. It's too much." And we start to lose a sense of what's going on with our body and our mind. So the first thing I say to a lot of women is just start getting in touch with yourself. Start listening. Our body oftentimes whispers for a lot of years before it starts screaming at us, doesn't it? With health
Does.
and
Yeah.
physical health, mental health, those types of things. So the first thing that I do say to them is, just start tuning in, what's going on in your body, and learning the signs and of stress, looking at, what might be going on for you, because we're all different, all different people, but we can learn what the signs are in our system. And some of the things that I shared earlier, this ongoing overwhelm that women are feeling. They're feeling worried, they're feeling too much going on. So getting in tune with that. The second thing I would suggest is to start building a toolbox of things that you can use to start winding down. Okay, so what we've got to learn how to do is we've got to start learning how to reduce stress and then also relieve stress, which a lot of people know about. There's so many things that you can do out there to relieve stress, and then
Yeah.
learn how to relax because of the
Yeah.
wind up that's going
Yeah.
on, both brain and body. So yeah, build yourself a toolbox. And the first thing that I would recommend is to learn about mindfulness, and things like, the first thing that I teach my ladies is deep belly breathing. And you can call that diaphragmatic breathing, you can call it yoga breathing.
Yeah.
It is the absolute quickest way to relaxation, because what it does is it slows the heart rate, it reduces blood pressure, slows down brain wave activity, and also reduces muscle tension. So as a mind body practitioner, as well as a holistic coach, I team up, things like mindfulness with different types of breathing
Yeah.
practices. So the big one is learning how, because we sometimes we need to reteach ourselves how to breathe, Kate,
Mm.
because when we're highly stressed for years, our lungs are like any sort of muscle. They can get a lot of
Yeah.
tension and they can get really tight, and stress actually makes it worse. And we start to breathe in the upper chest and with our shoulders. And that's not what we're meant to do. We're meant to breathe with our bellies, with our diaphragm. And so it's learning how to breathe again. And that's
Yeah.
the first big one I teach.
Uh-huh.
And things like meditation, things like other types of things. I've actually got a lovely gift for the ladies too, which can help. So just a guide called Your Go-To Easy Stress Relievers. And it's
Oh,
got a
fabulous.
variety of 6 things that is going to support your brain and your body, because that's what we want. We want our brain and our body is clearly connected, as you teach. I've been in your group for a little while. So we need a variety of things, to
Yeah.
support us to lower stress for both brain and body. So I would love to share things like you would not believe, but having a gratitude practice
Yeah. Big.
actually rewires the brain and
Mm.
helps us to be more stress resilient.
That's a big one, isn't it? Yes. It's a good
Yeah,
reminder.
so I
Thanks,
teach
Michelle. Yes,
that. And
I started
we've
some
all
years
heard
ago.
about it. We've all
Yeah,
heard this stuff, but it's a matter of putting
it
it
is
into
huge.
practice.
And it
Mm.
does, and it gets you in a certain vibration as well. And you just feel like life is so much better when you're looking at things that you're grateful for, that are positive in your life, rather than focusing on anything bad.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
great. That's a really good reminder. Thank you. Sorry, go on for the next ones, but that's just
You're very, very welcome. So having a toolbox. So I would
yeah,
really thoroughly recommend getting practicing your deep belly breathing.
yeah.
The way I did it when I was highly stressed as a teacher, I actually started yoga, and I did a very gentle yoga, and it included a lot of breath work in it. And it helped me to learn how to deepen my breath. They're fantastic in yoga. I teach it too, with a simple recording that can reteach,
Oh yeah.
how to use your belly to breathe. If you look at babies, they
Mm.
don't breathe with their shoulders, they're lying down, their
Yeah.
belly moves up
People
and
do
down.
that. Yeah, you've got to make sure your
Yeah.
shoulders don't move. That's a good
Yeah, well,
sign to
we end
know,
up our
isn't it?
shoulders around near our ears when we're
Yeah.
really stressed. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
So,
learning how
ladies,
to.
take note of that, ladies. If you're walking around like this and you feel like you're shallow breathing, that's going to add to the stress, isn't it? Because it keeps you in that sympathetic dominance, that fight and flight state of
It sure does.
the nervous
So we
system.
want to
Yeah,
come back to parasympathetic. We want to keep practicing ways through our day, adding to our routines, different types of things to help us. I teach a lot of stress reduction as well. So stress reduction is working with the brain, retraining the brain, focusing on what's in your control, what's worrying you, how to take back control of that so that you're not getting into a state of, worry and then anxiety, and then it's just sort of spirals down. So yeah, we can learn those strategies for sure. But meditation does both.
yeah.
Meditation is actually fantastic because it restores that inner balance,
But you're
that
doing the breathing as
homeostasis.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So,
you're
what sort of
breathing, your
meditation?
meditation.
Sorry, what sort of meditation do you teach then? Because there's so many different types, isn't there? Is there any that you could recommend to these ladies in the group, along with the breathing, that incorporates the breathing, maybe?
Yeah, yep, definitely guided meditation with your
Yeah,
breath work.
yeah.
So just listening to a guided meditation,
Mm,
that can actually guide you to breathe, and just, promote calm and stillness in your mind and your body. And a lot of women say to me, "Oh, I can't sit still for that long. Oh, I can't meditate. My brain goes off and it thinks about other things." Well,
yeah.
that's okay.
They need
That's
it
okay.
then,
We
don't they?
don't have to have a completely still mind.
Yeah,
Mine tends to sort of go off on tangents and things as well. Sometimes I'm meditating and I just have a notebook with me and I just write down a few things if it's sort of something comes up. But we do need to reteach ourselves how to be still, how to be
yeah.
mindful in the present. And when we are so busy and we're racing around, and brain gets wired to that busyness, to that stress. So it can take a little bit of time and retraining, and that's okay.
Yeah. So would you recommend to the ladies that they meditate every day and do that breathing then, or deep breathe throughout the day, so they can get it, sort of get practice in
So
for breathing more slowly?
Yeah, well, I would recommend at least once a day for breathing.
Hmm.
So it's about reteaching yourself. And so once you have got to a point of, you can go up to 3 times a day. And I know that sounds like a lot, but you can think, okay, well, when are my break times? I could do some lovely deep breathing at lunchtime or in, my morning and afternoon breaks or before bed. So it's building in a routine of breath
Yeah.
work to start with. And so eventually, once you've trained yourself, you'll be able to drop into your breath. When you know how you feel when you're stressed, you might be in the car, you've got your heart racing and you're thumping and your temperature's up, your blood pressure's up, you're recognizing that your brain has actually clicked into fight and flight. You can then easily just drop into your breath and just do some lovely deep breathing. It might be in the car. And then, if you want to do a meditation, I'm not saying you have to do that every day, but, work in some of that into your routines. I talk about holistic self-care and choosing some things that can work for you without feeling like, you've got all this extra stuff to do. I'm about micro self-care,
Yeah.
how do you get
Not
that
adding
into?
too many things to the day that makes more stress. That's not the whole point. But yeah, and
That's
I think, I mean, it's a good point. So most ladies would have issues with sleep if they're feeling like this, like you did, and I certainly have myself. So a good time to do that meditation and breathing, if you're only going to do it once a day is before in the evening sometime before bed, isn't it?
Mm,
Yeah, absolutely, to
yeah.
help get
And
you
there's
into
great
that.
things like body scans. There's, all different types of meditations that can help you to
Mm,
come back into your body because we're in our mind so much. So it does take practice to learn to come into our body, and meditation
focus
can be
on,
helpful.
yeah, focus on your body as in recognizing the signs and symptoms, like you said, rather than just being in your head. And not being reactive maybe as well to everything, because we tend to live in a reactive world too, don't we, that everybody reacts straight away to things in our environment, and we can
Yeah.
choose not to do that and
Yeah.
stay in that sort of calmer state and deep breathe, which is lovely. So is there any other tips that you'd like to share with ladies that they could take away and start, or are they the main things talking about, started to talk about the breathing and the being mindful and then the gratitude? Was there anything else you wanted to
Yeah,
share
well,
today?
there's a
Because I
few
think
other
there's
things in the guide that they
right.
can grab
Yeah,
from me. So
that's wonderful.
yeah, there's about 6 things. There's a lot of things. I don't want to overwhelm the ladies because sometimes women just start to feel like, oh no, it's all too much. I couldn't do that. So I'm all about keeping it simple.
Yeah,
Just choosing one thing. It might be, okay, I'm going to choose some learning how to breathe. It might be choosing a meditation. It might be just getting outside and, getting on the ground with bare feet and just grounding, like you were
fabulous.
talking about the other
Yeah,
day in the group.
yeah.
It might be self-care and actually spending some time on you and working out
Mm,
what your needs are.
having a bit of
Because when
fun.
we're feeling frustrated, yeah, when we're feeling frustrated, life is full on, and we don't feel like we've got any time for ourselves, that creates that emotional stresses. So we want to find things that, make us feel good, like fun, like, just enjoyment and hobbies and,
Mm,
whatever that is for you.
having a
So,
bath
yeah,
does
so
relax me.
I name
Yeah,
a
so
few
does
of those
God.
things in that guide.
Absolutely,
Um,
that's wonderful. Thank
and
you.
they are evidence-based, so they're not just sort of fluff. Some women might think, oh yeah, I've read that before, or I know all about that. Well, we're in an information society, aren't we? We
Yeah,
know a lot of stuff, but it's a matter of thinking, okay, what can I implement? What's
yes.
that one thing that I can choose and get that happening and learn that, and so it becomes like a non-negotiable for you.
That you have to do every day. Well, thank you for sharing that guide. What was the guide called again?
It's called Your Go-To Easy Stress Relievers, and it's all different
Fantastic.
ways to help regulate your nervous system, mind and body, connect the two, and yeah, come back to homeostasis, which is the balance
Fabulous. Thank you
in
so
life.
much, Michelle. So, ladies, if you'd like to use that guide and grab that from Michelle, then we'll get you to comment something in in the comment section. What would you like them to comment, do you think, Michelle? And I'll
They can
pass it
comment
on to them.
stress-free.
Stress-free, okay. So
Yeah,
ladies,
if you
put
want that,
stress-free in the
definitely.
comments if you want Michelle's guide, and we'll pass it on to you. Thank you. That's very generous. That's great. Yeah, so we'll get that going. And what I don't know whether you've got time to talk about it. You might in your guide. What's your personal energy blueprint that you speak about?
Well, that's actually in my program. So I have the Balanced Woman Academy, and so that forms part of my blueprint in there. So that's actually part of phase 2. And yeah, so I have 3 phases, and phase 1 is reconnect. So getting back to yourself, working out who you are as a woman, what you need, what you want, what's not working for you, what's your priorities. Phase 2 is rebalancing, and rebalancing is about setting up your energy blueprint. It's about lifestyle choices, it's about self-care, and it's also about rewiring your brain for stress. So teaching your brain about how to rewire and support your nervous system. And then the third phase is rewire. So we look at mindset, we look at, excuse me, we look at growth mindset, we look at abundance mindset, to really create a life that you want, and what that looks like for you in midlife, because you might be in a life that you don't feel fulfilled in anymore. So
Yeah, and that can happen so much at this stage of life. This is what the transition is about. It's not just your hormones changing, it can be a whole life change, and you realizing what your deepest desires and passions are. And for some ladies, though, they don't know what that is, and they find it hard to tap into it without the help of a guide like yourself. That can be very helpful. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's wonderful. And how can they find you then if they want to follow you or find you
okay,
and
cool.
learn more
Yeah,
about you?
so I have a Facebook group too. It's called the Balanced and Energized Women's 40 Plus Circle. So if you would like to join, and I can leave the link here in the replay sort of underneath.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to come across, and you're very welcome to do that. We talk a lot about things like stress and overwhelm and how to, wind down. We talk about energy boosting. We talk about balance and how to regain balance and what's that all about, because it's so different for everyone. So yeah, I will leave the link to my group there if any of your ladies would like to join us.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much, Michelle. Well, thank you. So yeah, I think we'll let the ladies either comment stress. No, what was it? Stress something.
Stress free.
Stress free. That's right. I've had to forget. I thought it was stress. I don't know. Stress something. Stress free in the comments if you want Michelle's lovely guide, and she'll also put her link to her great Facebook group. I'm in it too, where she shares lots of her wisdom and tips there as well. So thank you so much for joining us today, ladies, and thank you so much, Michelle, for being here and finally doing this interview after the technical issues we had with the live. Maybe at some stage we'll be able to do something live again later on in the year, maybe. But in the meantime, I'm trying to play it safe with technology and we'll probably record things this week. So thank you so much for talking about the nervous system. I hope everybody found that helpful. And if you have any questions, pop it in the comments below as well. If you're not sure if you're in this stage of hidden stress or burnout, and you'd like to talk to either of us about it, then yeah, perhaps chat below and join Michelle's group because she will help you there as well. And we'll see you around in Michelle's group or my group. And yeah, thank you so much again for joining. And thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Have a
having
good rest of
me.
your day, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.